Juliana Redding's story is one that continues to linger in the minds of those who followed it closely, even though the chances of closure seem slim. Many young dreamers head to Los Angeles, hoping to make a name for themselves in the entertainment world. While some manage to build thriving, fulfilling careers, others either return home defeated or keep chasing that elusive big break. One of those dreamers was 21-year-old aspiring actress Juliana Redding, who moved from Arizona to Santa Monica in 2005. However, her path would take several shocking turns before ending in tragedy. The outcome of her case left many questioning whether true justice was ever served. Today, Juliana's family continues to grapple with the painful reality that the person responsible for her brutal death may never be fully held accountable. Let's dive into the case. By all accounts, Juliana Redding had a happy and fulfilling childhood in Tucson, Arizona, where she attended Sal Point Catholic High School. After graduating, she decided to move to California to pursue modeling, while also staying relatively close to her family. Juliana had once told her parents, Patricia and Greg, that she hoped to open a boutique someday, though her ultimate dream was to build and run her own business. Even after relocating to Los Angeles, Juliana remained very close to her family. She called her parents regularly to share updates about her life and future plans. They often exchanged text messages, and she occasionally returned to Tucson to visit them. By 2008, Juliana was enrolled at Santa Monica College and living independently in a cozy bungalow in Santa Monica. While pursuing modeling and acting opportunities, Juliana worked as a waitress to help support herself. She seemed content with her life at the time, but everything took a tragic turn on March 16th of that year. It all began when her mother, Patricia, realized she couldn't reach her daughter. What's known is that on March 15th, Juliana had gone out to play golf before returning home to her bungalow, where she spent the evening watching TV, mostly Seinfeld reruns. The next evening, Patricia received a call from Juliana's neighbors, who said they hadn't seen her all day. They mentioned that her dog was still inside the bungalow, but the house itself seemed eerily quiet and empty. Growing increasingly anxious, Patricia kept calling Juliana's phone, hoping she would answer, but the calls went unanswered, and Juliana never called her mother back. At first, Patricia assumed Juliana was just busy and would call back later. But by 6 p.m., after still hearing nothing, she felt something was terribly wrong. She decided to contact the police and requested a welfare check, explaining the situation in detail. Officers arrived at Juliana's bungalow and examined the outside, initially finding nothing out of the ordinary. Her car was still parked in the driveway, a sign that she should have been home, yet there were no sounds or signs of movement inside. When officers entered the house, however, they immediately sensed something was off. A strong odor of natural gas filled the air, and they noticed a candle burning near the main entrance. Upon investigating further, they discovered that the gas smell was coming from the stove, which had been left on intentionally. However, the burner hadn't been lit, meaning the entire bungalow was essentially a ticking time bomb. Then, officers made an even more horrifying discovery. After searching the home, they found Juliana in the bedroom toward the back of the house. Tragically, she was already deceased, and it was immediately clear to investigators that she had been strangled. The scene also showed unmistakable signs that she had fought back. The apartment bore the marks of a violent struggle. Evidence later revealed that Juliana's own DNA was found beneath her fingernails, suggesting she had desperately tried to pull her attacker's hands from her throat. While there were few clues pointing to who was responsible, one fact stood out. Whoever broke into the home had deliberately turned on the gas in an apparent attempt to blow up the bungalow and destroy any trace of their presence. Had the intruder's plan worked, much of the evidence at the scene would have been destroyed. The gas from the stove was clearly meant to ignite from the nearby candle and cause an explosion. Fortunately, because of the bungalow's older construction, the gas never accumulated enough to detonate. Investigators then began reconstructing what they believed happened in Juliana's final moments. They determined that on the night of March 15th, around 10 p.m., someone had broken into Juliana's home. Once inside, the intruder attacked her, at one point slamming her head against the floor and causing a serious injury. Based on the duration and intensity of the struggle, Police concluded that the assailant may have been caught off guard by Juliana's fierce resistance, ultimately resorting to strangling her. Phone records later revealed that Juliana had tried to dial 911, but the call was disconnected before it went through, a heartbreaking sign that she had attempted to get help in her final moments. The neighbors who had contacted Patricia told police they hadn't noticed anything particularly strange in or around the bungalow, though they did recall hearing furniture being moved and someone shouting around 9:53 the night before. Unfortunately, they hadn't thought much of it at the time. As they explained later, nothing had seemed especially out of place. It could have easily been a small gathering or a minor argument. At the scene, investigators collected several pieces of crucial evidence, including multiple DNA samples found on Juliana's clothing, her throat, her phone, and the front door. It would take some time for the lab to process these samples and identify who might have been inside her home. In the meantime, detectives began interviewing Juliana's friends and family, hoping to piece together more details about her life and any potential connections that might point to a suspect. Juliana's father suggested that investigators contact John Gilmore, a man with whom Juliana had been in an on-and-off relationship. While speaking with detectives, he admitted that he had always been concerned about his daughter's involvement with Gilmore, describing him as someone with a violent temper. His fears were not unfounded. Gilmore had once kicked in Juliana's car door and even broken into her home during a past argument. When investigators learned this, they believed they might finally have the lead they needed. They immediately began searching for John Gilmore, and it didn't take long to locate him. During questioning, Gilmore admitted that he had gone to Juliana's house on Sunday morning but claimed that, despite seeing her car parked in the driveway, she never answered the door. He told investigators that he hadn't noticed any smell of gas, but when he looked through the security gate, he could see a candle burning inside. Gilmore admitted that he and Juliana occasionally argued, and when questioned about the violent incidents her family had mentioned, he acknowledged that they had fought on multiple occasions. One particular argument had taken place on Saturday night. According to Gilmore, the tension started when he called Juliana to tell her he'd be spending the evening with some friends. She apparently became irritated and hung up on him. After that, she decided to go out with one of her own friends, while Gilmore attended a house party a few miles from her apartment. The two continued texting throughout the evening, though their messages carried a lingering tension. Around 10 p.m., Juliana stopped responding altogether. The next morning, when Gilmore still hadn't heard from her, he tried calling and sending several more texts but got no reply. Concerned, he decided to stop by her bungalow, but when he couldn't find her, he eventually left. Although Gilmore was initially the prime suspect, security footage from the night of the murder soon cleared him. Surveillance cameras showed him visiting a Jack in the Box restaurant and a nearby convenience store between 9:45 and 10:15 p.m. Additionally, several people from the house party confirmed that he had been there during the time the attack took place, effectively ruling him out as the killer. When forensic tests revealed that most of the DNA found in Juliana's apartment belonged to a woman rather than a man, it completely ruled out Gilmore's involvement and left investigators with more questions than answers. They began interviewing every woman in Juliana's circle, exploring rumors of a possible love triangle or jealousy, perhaps someone who resented her looks, success, or lifestyle. Despite collecting DNA samples from everyone they interviewed, none matched the evidence recovered from the crime scene. It was around this time that another man entered the picture, a physician named Munir. Further investigation revealed that Juliana and Munir had first met in 2007 while she was working at a restaurant, marking the start of a new lead in the case. Juliana clearly made a strong impression on Munir, as he soon offered her a job as his medical assistant. She accepted, likely eager for the opportunity to earn more money, since working as a restaurant hostess or server hardly paid well, especially given the constant stress of dealing with difficult customers. However, their relationship quickly evolved beyond a professional one. Juliana eventually agreed to move in with Munir, and during that time, he provided for her and allowed her to live in his lavish Beverly Hills home. At first, the arrangement may have seemed exciting and flattering, but before long, Juliana grew uneasy about Munir's behavior. She began to suspect that he was becoming increasingly possessive, perhaps even obsessed with her. At one point, Munir even proposed to Juliana, promising to buy her a luxury car for her 21st birthday. As a wealthy man, he certainly had the means to provide for her, but what might have seemed generous soon began to feel unsettling. Juliana grew uncomfortable, especially since Munir had a reputation for showering women with expensive gifts like cars and jewelry. It's uncertain whether Munir was exaggerating their relationship out of infatuation or simply misinterpreted Juliana's intentions. Either way, his behavior became increasingly odd, and Juliana soon realized she needed to distance herself. Determined to regain control of her life, she decided to end things with him. She eventually moved out, settling into the Santa Monica bungalow her father helped pay for, hoping to start fresh. It was somewhat surprising that Juliana and Munir stayed in touch even after their breakup, which by all accounts had ended on good terms. One of Juliana's friends later revealed that the two, along with her, had once taken a trip to Las Vegas to celebrate a friend's birthday. But things weren't as innocent as they seemed. When Juliana's father decided to look into Munir's background, he uncovered something deeply unsettling. Munir was not only married but also had 3 children living in Lebanon. When he told Juliana what he had found, he was certain that Munir's family had no idea about her or the other women he had been involved with. The revelation left Juliana shocked and heartbroken. She immediately told her father that she wanted nothing more to do with Munir. It was likely the right decision to cut ties completely and tell him never to contact her again. Despite the tension between them, Juliana's father, Greg, who worked as a pharmacist, continued to stay in contact with Munir. The two had been collaborating on a business venture, but the deal ultimately fell apart after Greg began to suspect that Munir might be running his operations in a questionable, possibly illegal way. As more information surfaced, it became increasingly clear that Munir was not the respectable professional he had pretended to be. Investigators couldn't ignore the unsettling coincidence that Juliana's death occurred just a week after the business deal collapsed. This timing led them to suspect that Munir might know far more than he was letting on. However, his DNA was not found at the crime scene, and by that time he had already left the country, making it impossible for police to question him immediately. In the meantime, they decided to dig deeper into his background, and what they found would raise even more suspicions. Investigators began looking into the women who had previously worked with Munir, as his history with them was reportedly questionable. While there wasn't yet concrete evidence to back it up, detectives suspected that the female DNA found at the crime scene could somehow be connected to him. Most of Munir's former female associates had either cut ties with him or knew nothing about Juliana, but suspicions grew when police discovered his past relationship with a 47-year-old woman named Kelly Supak. Within just 18 months, Munir had transferred more than $1 million to Pak through several large payments. She had once worked as a real estate broker and had been involved in many of his business ventures. Though investigators couldn't yet prove she had any role in Juliana's murder, they decided to have Pak placed under surveillance, hoping to discreetly collect a DNA sample without alerting her, a move that would soon prove crucial to the case. Investigators knew they had to proceed carefully. If Kelly Supak was involved, alerting her could risk tipping off Munir as well. So they decided to collect her DNA covertly. Their patience eventually paid off when they retrieved a discarded cigarette butt from her, which was then sent for forensic testing. The results were groundbreaking. Pak's DNA matched the samples found throughout Juliana's bungalow. This confirmed she had been present during the attack, and although Munir hadn't yet returned to the US, it strongly suggested he was also involved in some capacity. Pak was quickly arrested and charged with Juliana's murder. Meanwhile, Munir vanished without a trace, reportedly fleeing just days after learning of her arrest. Investigators believed he had likely gone to Lebanon to avoid capture. Yet one major question still remained. What was the motive behind Juliana's killing? Investigators theorized that Munir had paid Kelly Supak to attack Juliana as an act of revenge, either because he was angry over their breakup or upset that his failed business deal with Greg had damaged his reputation. One prevailing theory suggested that Munir sent Pak to confront Juliana in a threatening manner, hoping to pressure Greg into reconsidering their business arrangement. While this remains speculation, police believe the situation escalated when Juliana fought back, leading to a violent struggle that ended with her death. During the court proceedings, It was alleged that Munir had agreed to pay Pak a six-figure sum to carry out his plan. This theory gained credibility after reports from the Los Angeles Times revealed that Pak had a known history of intimidating individuals who clashed with Munir, making it all the more believable that she was his enforcer in this tragic scheme. Pak had allegedly carried out similar acts of intimidation for Munir in the past. She was said to have threatened one of his clients who failed to make promised payments, and on another occasion, she reportedly menaced a bank manager who had canceled a business deal with him. When charged with second-degree murder, Pak pleaded not guilty. Despite the overwhelming evidence from Juliana's bungalow, including DNA proof placing her at the scene, her defense team argued that Munir, still overseas at the time, was the sole link between the two women, claiming they had never actually met. The prosecution intended to present the theory that Pak had been acting as Munir's enforcer, and that her attempt to intimidate Juliana had spiraled into murder. However, this strategy fell apart in court. The judge ruled that prosecutors could not introduce the theory since there wasn't enough direct evidence to prove it. As a result, the state was forced to rely solely on the physical evidence found at the scene. Most notably, the DNA that tied Pak to the crime. Prosecutors emphasized that Pak was a tall, physically imposing woman, nearly 6 feet in height, and carried herself with the confidence and authority of someone who could easily act as an enforcer if instructed by Munir. Her presence was said to be intimidating, with a commanding personality that few could stand up to. As more evidence surfaced, it seemed increasingly likely that she would be convicted of Juliana's murder. Pak's DNA was found in multiple places throughout the bungalow: on Juliana's clothing, the front door, the locks, her phone, and most incriminating of all, on Juliana's throat. Investigators also discovered her fingerprint and a drop of her blood on a dish in the kitchen sink. The prosecution argued that this was undeniable proof of her presence inside the apartment that night and that, since the two women had never met, Pak had no reason to be there except to carry out an attack ordered by Munir. Prosecutors argued it was indisputable that Juliana had been manually strangled, pointing to the presence of Pak's DNA on her throat as clear proof of her involvement. But holding Pak accountable would prove far more challenging. Just as she had allegedly fought fiercely the night she encountered Juliana, she wasn't about to go down easily in court. Her defense team came prepared to challenge every piece of evidence, using every strategy available to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. One alternative theory presented by Pak's defense questioned whether she had even been inside Juliana's bungalow the night of the murder. They argued that the lack of eyewitnesses left too much uncertainty about what truly happened. The defense also suggested the possibility of secondary DNA transfer, claiming Pak's DNA might have ended up at the crime scene through indirect contact, perhaps via an object she had touched that later made its way into Juliana's home. It was a bold argument, but one designed to plant reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors. The defense elaborated on this theory by explaining how DNA can transfer when two people handle the same object, meaning one person's genetic material can unknowingly be passed to another. In simpler terms, they argued that Pak might have accidentally brought Juliana's DNA to the crime scene by touching something previously handled by the real killer. They pointed to a specific example: a towel Pak may have used months earlier while visiting Munir's Beverly Hills home. According to the defense, the murderer could have later used that same towel to wipe away fingerprints or evidence after the attack, inadvertently transferring Pak's DNA to the bungalow. They further claimed that because Pak was a frequent visitor at Munir's residence, and since Juliana had once lived there, it was entirely possible that her DNA had been transferred unintentionally, rather than through direct contact during the crime. Addressing Munir's alleged role in the crime, the defense argued that neither his breakup with Juliana's father nor a failed business deal provided a strong enough motive for murder. Since Pak and Munir had a history of professional dealings, they maintained that the large payments sent from Munir to Pak were simply legitimate business transactions, money he already owed her. The prosecution, on the other hand, presented a far darker picture. They claimed that Munir had once bragged about hiring a woman he described as a female James Bond, suggesting she was paid to carry out covert and potentially lethal assignments. Prosecutors asserted that Munir had both the motive and means to order a hit on Juliana. As the trial continued, the case took increasingly strange and almost unbelievable turns. According to the LA Times, Phone records revealed that Pack had contacted Juliana's workplace and was seen outside her bungalow the night before the attack. Since the two women had never met, investigators believed Pack had reached out to learn Juliana's schedule and gain access to her apartment while planning the assault. Moreover, both Pack and Munir were under investigation for their alleged involvement in a health insurance fraud scheme that police were still actively probing at the time. When the jury ultimately ruled in Pack's favor, the verdict shocked everyone. The trial had dragged on until 2013, an unusually long time for such proceedings. But in the end, Kelly Sue Pack was found not guilty. As she left the courthouse, Juliana's friends and family erupted in anger, shouting that Pack knew she was guilty and that justice had gone terribly wrong. In the end, no one was ever held accountable for Juliana's death, and the one man who connected all the key figures in the case was never even questioned, simply because he had vanished. The verdict left Juliana's family heartbroken. Understandably devastated, they released a written statement expressing their deep sorrow and frustration over the absence of justice. To make matters worse, Lebanon, Munir's home country, has no extradition treaty with the United States and is known for shielding its citizens from foreign prosecution. This meant Munir would never face consequences for his alleged role in the crime as long as he stayed there. Her family struggled to comprehend how such overwhelming evidence against both Pack and Munir failed to secure a conviction. Over time, they've tried to come to terms with the court's decision. Juliana's mother, Patricia, now spends time painting in her daughter's room, a quiet act that helps her feel a small, lingering connection to Juliana. Even after all these years, Patricia says that painting has become her way of coping, a form of emotional release that allows her to create her best work when she's feeling most vulnerable. At times, she feels as though she, Greg, and their son Patrick are still trapped in 2008, the year of the attack. Unable to fully move on, still haunted by the fact that Pack and Munir walked free. Still, Patricia has managed to find a renewed sense of purpose through her art and her journey of recovery from breast cancer. She's learned to search for light even in the darkest moments. As for Munir, he is believed to have reunited with his real family in Lebanon after fleeing the United States, and he continues to insist on his innocence to this very day. He has never been questioned or formally charged in connection with Juliana's case. In 2015, he was arrested in Germany on accusations of medical fraud, but the case never went anywhere. Authorities claimed he allowed a physician's assistant, someone with no formal medical training, to perform surgeries he had promised to handle himself. More than 20 of his patients later came forward, saying the procedures left them permanently disfigured. For reasons that remain unclear, he was released and returned to Lebanon, where he is once again suspected of committing medical fraud. When investigators discovered that Pack was also linked to the 2015 German case, she was arrested as well. She faced charges of conspiracy, patient deception, performing botched procedures that caused disfigurement, and defrauding insurance companies of $150 million. But after posting a $1.5 million bond, she managed to slip through the authorities' grasp once again. There's no easy answer or satisfying conclusion to Juliana's story. Once it became clear that Munir had been living a double life, her family did everything they could to protect her. Yet he ultimately walked away without facing any real consequences. Some may call this an unsolved case, but deep down, everyone knows the truth, no matter how much solid evidence was presented. Sometimes the justice system simply fails. People place their faith in due process, believing it will prevent such failures from repeating, but too often it doesn't. All we can hope is that Juliana's case serves as a reminder and a lesson for the future. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.